In the 8 years that IS, a group banned in Russia, has terrorized Syria, its militants have brought a lot of grief, death, destruction and suffering. The country has a long road to recovery from the chaos ahead, but some losses are irreparable. And we are talking not only about human lives, but also about human culture, history and values. On May 20, 2015, IS militants, organization banned in the Russian Federation, took the ancient city of Palmyra. While holding it, the Islamists transferred forces to different sections of the front. This intersection connected Islamist-occupied territories in the provinces of Damascus, Homs, Deir ez-Zor, Raqqa and Aleppo. This place occupies an advantageous strategic position. Once one of the richest cities of late antiquity, the oasis located in the heart of Syria, it is still the intersection of many roads. Palmyra, as the city on the Silk Way, grew rich on trade caravans and flourished in the 3rd century AD, when the Queen Zenobia ruled the Palmyra kingdom until she was beaten by Romans in 273. If we are talking about the significance of Palmyra for history, then we need to remember that in the 3rd century AD, Palmyra was the center of a huge state that occupied almost the entire eastern part of the Roman Empire. The very fact that wealth flocked there from such a vast region is already enough reason to look for the significant cultural structures here. The Roman culture met the architectural traditions of Persia and Mesopotamia, having a significant impact on the art, engineering thought, and language of the whole world. For example, every Russian school student saw the triumphal arch of Palmyra. Its photograph is on the cover of an ancient history textbook for 5th grade. Now, the Arch of Septimius Severus, as it is called in all historical documents, cannot be recognized. It had a very great influence on the architecture of St. Petersburg at all the time when Karl Joseph and other architects worked on the center of St. Petersburg in 1820. Palmyra Triumphal Arch was taken as model for the famous Arch of the General Staff on Palace Square. Islamists began to blow up, destroy with building tools and shoot monuments of antiquity only months after they strengthened in the city. The first victim of barbarism was the statue of Leo Alat, dating back to the 1st century AD. It was followed by the temple of Baal Shamin, built in 131 AD. Then, the Bela Temple, built in 31 AD. Dozens of tower tombs were seriously damaged. Several tombs were blown up. The fact is that there are necropolises there where the townspeople buried their dead. Large family shrines, rooms with a unique intact interior where even the color of the trimming has been preserved. The rich Palmyra families built communal tombs decorated with beautiful human figures of the dead. "95% of the exhibits of Palmyra Museum before the arrival of the Islamists were sent to Damascus. All the items that were not saved due to the lack of time are lost forever." The reaction of the entire civilized world was not slow in coming. The Archaeological Museum of the American University of Beirut opened the exhibition Palmyra, the Lost City, and exposed a series of photographs of the monuments of the ancient Syrian city before and after the destruction. But what aims were pursued by the Islamists when they were destroying the historical monuments? Perhaps it is a fierce manifestation of rejection of cultural and religious values of both current and previous civilizations. They don't care about it themselves. This is great value for the European civilization that they oppose. Hence the logic of treating these monuments as the hostages that they have. Through damage and destruction, they can affect those for whom it is valuable. We are used to referring to the religious factor, but this is not quite right. The list of structures that were destroyed by militants includes a considerable number of mosques, moreover, Sunni mosques. In other words, the religious moment will be hard enough to find. It is believed that the destruction of large sculptures and buildings was only a cover for looting. The militants destroyed what they could not steal. They were digging everywhere in search of treasures, in search of what could be sold. After 2015, the penetration of stolen archaeological objects into the market began. Hundreds of statues and busts were stolen, taken out and sold. At least 120 sculptures of Palmyra were discovered during anti-smuggling operations. The real tragedy for the entire occupied city was the execution of Dr. Khalid el-Assad, director of the Syrian Museum of Antiquities. The militants were sure that the scientists knew where the treasures of the legendary Queen Zenobia were hidden. The doctor was tortured for 28 days and, without receiving an answer from him, they beheaded the doctor in the main square. In March 2016, an operation to liberate the city began, while the Syrian army fought with IS, organization banned in the Russian Federation. On the ground, Russian aviation attacked the positions of militants from the air. The city changed hands 3 times. The Syrian government took over Palmyra, but lost it again 10 months later. The deployment of IS in Al-Son after the first liberation gave them a platform for a second attack and occupation, and this is what happened. On March 27, 2016, Palmyra was recaptured from terrorists. The ancient Palmyra castle of Fakr al-Din al-Mani was the last fortified area of the militants and their main cover from air bombardment and mortar fire. Before fleeing, the militants mined everything around. Tripwires were set off everywhere. The demolition bombs were planted directly into asphalt. However, the Islamists either did not have time or could not activate improvised bombs with remote control. It is hard to believe, but a day after the demining was completed, on the stage of the Roman theatre of the 2nd century AD, which the terrorists did not touch, the Mariinsky Theatre Orchestra, under the conduction of Valery Gergiev, held a concert, Pray for Palmyra. Reports of militant activity began to arrive on December 8, 2016. On December 9th, battles were already in the outskirts of Palmyra. On December 10th, the terrorist attack intensified. On December 11th, ISIS, organization banned in the Russian Federation, regained the control of the ancient city. In January 2017, these frames were broadcasted by all world television channels. Islamists blew up a bomb on the stage of the Roman theatre, where Gergiev conducted and the Mariinsky Theatre Orchestra performed. I'm not interested in geopolitical confrontation, but the destruction of the theatre in Palmyra is our collective fault. The fault of everyone who respects human civilization. Immediately after the fall of Palmyra, the liberation operation began. On March 2, 2017, Palmyra was returned to the control of the Syrian government with the support of Russian aerospace forces and special operation forces. The operation was planned and carried out under the leadership of Russian military advisors. For a month and a half, government troops and militia units, overcoming the stubborn resistance of terrorists with battles, advanced 60 kilometers. And on March the 2nd, they established complete control over Palmyra. Attacking the positions of the Islamic State organization banned in the Russian Federation, the Russian and Syrian military were forced to act carefully. There was too high a risk of collateral damage to Palmyra. Only in the summer of 2019, the Palmyra residents finally began to return home.